generative AI and OpenAI, they've actually made a class of problems very, very easy to solve, which are all on the NLP side. Okay,
Yeah.
so a lot of the problems. So what I do is the way I look at generative AI is there is another is like made a class of problems very easy, and it
Mm-hmm.
changes our approach on how to go about these class of problems. So for a class of problems,
Right.
it's a totally different dimension. Second
Mm-hmm.
is everybody's excited about the space. So if you're an exec and you're not investing in Gen AI, you're not going to be seen as futuristic, unlikely to be promoted, likely to be fired. So everybody wants to use Gen AI. There's a huge
Yeah.
demand. So half of our project mix as a center of competence has shifted to Gen AI.
Hi, friends, and welcome to this very exciting episode of Leading with Data. Today, I have with me Dr. Kiran R, who is a partner GM at Microsoft, focusing on ML sciences and ML engineering for Microsoft Cloud Data Sciences and Cloud Plus AI. He holds a PhD from IIM Lucknow, has more than six publications, 37 patents to his name. He has been a regular feature on Data Hack Summit. So his last talk was on landing models in production at scale. Kiran is also the first Kaggle grandmaster from India. So he has been really passionate about building AI and ML culture, both in the organization where he has been, and also at a larger level and broader level. So mentoring people, helping them with their career advice. And every time I talk to Kiran, I find it very energetic, and then talking to him just revitalizes me. So Kiran, welcome to the show, and thanks for taking time out from your schedule.
Yeah, thanks, Kunal. Looking forward to talking to you and also reaching out to the audience.
Great. So, Kiran, I would want to start from what were your early days in, AI, ML, data science, whatever you call, and then how did you get into data science?
Yeah, so yeah, I've been in data science field even before the term data sciences was coined.
Correct.
The word data scientist, it became popular. I think started getting used in 2012, 13, and then 14, 15 is when it became very popular. Now it's taken off. Where there's so much talk happening about data science. So data scientists, the funny part is that in 2012, 13, if you told somebody on the team that will call you a data scientist, they'd get very worried. They're like, hey, will I find another job or will I tell I'm doing? People would prefer titles which are like analytics consultant, senior analytics manager, was like data science manager. But then,
Business
things change
analysts, yeah.
rapidly. Yeah, things change rapidly in the field. See, so for me, right, what attracted me towards data science as the field is today is basically that is a combination of several fields. It's a combination of
Hmm.
programming, it's a combination of
Yeah.
computer science, it's a combination of a bit of computer science, a bit of statistics, and business. So it's got the business analysis part, it's got the computer science part, the programming part, and then also a statistics portion. So I am a computer science engineer. I started my career working in Motorola, and at Motorola, I built out. I was working on the multimedia messaging service in the early 2002 to 4, when it was all in the initial stages, writing the protocol module. And I always wanted to
Hmm.
go and have a higher education, so that's how I went to do my MBA from IMK. And then once you finish your MBA, a lot of the roles that people get are typically consulting or investment banking. That's where a lot of people prefer to go after MBA. And then if people who want to go into tech, the roles are more like product management and then
Correct.
pre-sales, business development. And then of course I'm talking for the people in tech, but people do go to banks, they do go to FMCG firms, etc. So as I was doing my MBA, I also did my internship, and the internship was more on a pre-sales biz dev, and then I felt like, hey, I'm not really cut out for doing this stuff. Because for me, right, the work had to be intellectually stimulating, and
Right.
then I should get some joy and passion from doing the work. So that's when
Hmm.
I was actually I had a whatever you call the IM CGPA. I had like a very good CGPA. I was in the top five of the batch, and definitely,
Mhm.
definitely right. So, but I was not very keen to sit for any of these consulting firms because my whole idea of interacting with people in consulting was that they tell a lot of things about what to do, but they don't really get anything done. So consulting was like a no for me, right? And
Right.
business development was a no after my summers. Then at that point in time, there was this field coming up called analytics,
Mhm.
and then Dell was setting up their analytics firm in. Their analytics shop in Bangalore. They already set it up in 2005, and they were hiring a lot of IM grads. So so my start post MBA, my career started with the Dell, where I was on the where I joined as an advisor in the analytics space, right? And then one good thing about doing an IM MBA is that it gives you a lateral entry to these firms. So it was like more like
That is true.
the individual equivalent of like a manager, individual contributing equivalent. It was a fairly good place to start, and there it used to be called analytics, and there it
Mhm.
was more data sciences then because more about like getting in programming. The programming in those days used to be SaaS, base SaaS. So I'm like base SaaS
Correct.
certified, advanced SaaS certified, and all the data
Mhm.
and proc used to be very comfortable with that. Then I also started out in eBiz analytics. So there, along with this
All right.
SaaS, you also have to
Mhm.
know all the clickstream data, like visitors visiting the Dell website, customers who bought X also bought Y. And in the early days, you know
Mhm.
what? Customers who bought X also bought Y used to be attach rates. So we would put
Right.
out three files using SaaS. One would be like,
Mhm.
what are the top products? What are the top selling? What are the top two highest attached to that product
Mhm.
by units, by revenue, by margin? Then based on the business direction, they'll go and pick it up, right? Then a lot of things around the customer pathing, and there'll be a lot of these tools like Adobe Omniture wasn't yet acquired by Adobe; it was a separate company.
Correct.
There's one more tool which was later acquired by Omniture called Visual Sciences, and
Visual
very
sciences. Correct.
I got very comfortable working in this area, and it was more or
Interesting.
less like I found it to be very good because see, it's like, see, I have an engineering degree and I'm doing programming, okay, and I used to love programming. Used to be win like on the spot programming competitions and all that. So for me, right, what I liked about SAS was every statement ended with a semicolon. Okay, for whatever reminded me
Yeah.
of C
True.
programming. Reminds me of C programming. Then
Correct.
then what happened is that I really like because it's got the programming component. Then it's also got the B
Mhm.
school component because
Correct.
in IMs you get exposed to a lot of these translating the business problem into something more concrete. So I could speak.
Mhm.
I was much more suited to play analytics data science role after my IM MBA because I was very familiar with the business that those things would come automatically to me. Then I loved
Mhm.
computer science, and I loved all the statistical stuff. So it was actually very good to run
Wow.
for me in Dell. I started as an advisor, then became a consultant, then became a
Mhm.
manager. Then I was a senior manager in Dell, and I was managing
Interesting.
teams. Initially, I used to play this senior IC roles for a long time. Then what I felt is that when you play these IC roles, my what I used to feel is, many people who are technically good, there was nobody to help them, right? They will get stereotyped. See,
Correct.
one contrary to popular perception that people have that data scientists are most amazingly treated in a company, I found that the best data scientists
Mhm.
aren't really very well treated. Like it needs a good leader to really make them
Right.
prosper. So I wanted to play that role because I used to feel a lot of these people secluded, right? Because no person good at everything. There'll be some people very good in stats, but they would say
Yeah.
they would get stereotyped as not understanding the business, and then but then I felt I can do something good for the community. So my whole reason to get into people management was to be of more value to the community. So that's how it
Wow.
went. And in Dell, what happened is I won the World Quality Day finals one of the years, which was for a printer ink attach rate problem. Then I also got the Innovator of the Year award from Dell. Dell also used
Yeah.
to encourage people to file patents. So I got like my first three patents from Dell, and they would give you some Dell stock if you get a patent and some cash award. So it was all very
Wow.
interesting. But then what
Mhm.
happened is, as was in Dell, right, in 2011, in 11, 12, I was curious, like, hey, how am I with respect to the rest of the world? And for me, right,
Right.
I would be very keen on keeping myself up to date with tech.
Yeah.
So I was very familiar with all the things like R and all, and picked up. See, after SAS, R came into being. Python didn't have
Correct.
all the libraries in 2011, 12. Then
Right.
Kaggle came up, and I participated in a competitive hackathon, 24-hour hackathon on like recommending music, movies, and I came like fifth. I was like very happy. Then I thought,
Hmm.
like, then this competitive spirit came in, and then I think then it was like winning a couple of gold medals, getting three, four gold medals. Then before I knew, I was like ranked 17th. Then I was ranked seven, and it was very good. It
Wow.
gave me a lot of recognition, and then right
Hmm.
from Dell I moved on to Amazon. Amazon I went back in an individual contributor role. Amazon has this
Hmm.
concept of in the IC track they have a level called level six, and then
Right.
till they it's called the senior level. And when you join Amazon, they'll give you, see, for a young guy with 7 8 years experience, it's a good feeling. When you get like a shared cabin when you join, right? So it was all very good because it's senior ICs, and
Okay.
I was like,
Hmm.
they didn't have too many L6 ICs in Amazon, and I think I was the first L6 data scientist hired there outside the ML sciences group. And
Hmm.
from there, so that's how my that's how I got, that's when the data sciences term was coined, because I was like more like
Correct.
a senior data scientist there.
Hmm.
Then after that I spent in Amazon. Then Flipkart was just starting, and all these attractive stock options and all of those things, right? So spent some time in Flipkart, spent a year and a half in Flipkart, and then
Hmm.
the VMware was setting up their center in India. And then I really liked working in Dell, and I was like, hey, this
Hmm.
can be like setting up and scaling a COE from scratch, like being the first employee in
Right.
India, and also scaling
Yeah.
this. So I had a very good run in VMware. Started out as a senior manager, then director, then senior director, and then got a wide exposure. I had already had a lot of exposure to e-commerce, and I worked on enterprise ML and product ML. VMware, the good
Hmm.
part is it was a leader in this space, right? Like 80%,
Right.
all they used to say that all the Fortune 500 companies are our customers, right? How many companies can say
Right.
all Fortune 100? They say 80%, 90%. We were like, what,
Yeah.
everybody is our customer. And then
Right.
they did have market leading products in virtualization, like virtual storage, where you and I, we can store our data on the cloud. We don't know where it is. We get the same performance, and very interesting problems like hundreds of thousands of hard drives, spinning out throughput, latency, bandwidth. I'm going to say that what's going to fail. Similarly, storage virtual network virtualization, building out the threat detection system. It was a very very great journey there. And
Hmm.
then what happened is, after spending like 7 years in VMware, then I was not really like, what happens is, once you get senior, you get headhunted into roles. So then I had this Microsoft exec recruiter reach out to me and say there's a certain role. Initially said, hey, I'm not interested. I want to continue, but then but then what happened? The offer kept getting attractive. It was difficult to say no. So that's how I joined Microsoft 3 years ago, and then have
Okay.
been. I was basically hired to for the Microsoft Cloud Data Sciences organization to
Hmm.
actually build the team out on applied ML engineering. And it was very interesting because VMware was product ML, before that e-commerce. Microsoft was more enterprise ML, and then built a MLOps platform in VMware, which is on-prem. And I got the chance to
Right.
build it out at Microsoft on the cloud, build an extensible solution. So it's been a good journey. So I would say that the term data sciences is a new term. It didn't exist till
Hmm.
10, 11 years ago. And now,
Right.
of course,
Yeah.
there's so much excitement about the field, but that's been my journey. I really like the field, both at work, outside of work. I like to do some good to the community. And then one of the things I try to do all the time is that a good ML scientist, people are technically good, ensure they grow, ensure they do well, and that's
Right.
something I like.
Great. And your current role at Microsoft, so, do you work closely with clients, or you're building this platform which can be then used by clients on their own? So can you elaborate a bit more on what does these services on cloud platform mean?
Yeah. So see, in Microsoft, there's a group called Microsoft Cloud Data Sciences, and we
Hmm.
actually work on a variety of problems within the company. So you can think of it as an
Okay.
internal center
Sure.
competence of excellence, which works on a variety
Hmm.
of cases. So the work falls into
Yeah.
three broad buckets. So first is the applied ML, where you see
Hmm.
in engineering systems like Microsoft, a lot of the problems are related to anomaly detection. There are no labels.
Right.
You got to say like when something's going to fail. So for example, the Mario
Hmm.
service in Azure core, that's powered by the anomaly detection that my team built.
Hmm.
And all the close to $200 billion of revenue of Microsoft flows through the commerce systems. So
Right.
one of my key support areas is commerce, where for every level
Hmm.
we have anomaly detection in place. So to give you an example, you could be CEO of an Australian firm. You could swipe a credit card for $18 million and buy some Microsoft product. It could be a legal transaction, or it could be or it could be a fraudulent one. Now the thing is,
Right.
if you're a good customer making the transaction, and I block you for 2 days, it's bad experience. right?
Correct.
Whereas if somebody's going to lose eight, if it's $18 million of fraud, this true positive, false positive. Administration systems are very very niche, right? So
Yeah.
that's one area. Other is on the enterprise ML side, how do you like have propensity models for all these products, like who's likely to buy what service product we can recommend to somebody. You can think of all the traditional work is there. Then how do you empower the in enterprise ML these models of propensity recommend? They're targeted more on the sellers, the partners, because Microsoft says for every $1 we make, partners need to make
Hmm.
$10, right? And then a lot of
Right.
generative AI products which are all related to making the lives of the partners, the sellers, and the customers easier. So if you're on the Azure
Hmm.
marketplace, which is a $1 billion business, you're a you're a partner creating your profile. We'll use generative
Hmm.
AI to create a profile for you, where if you're like Wipro, for example, right? We can go to the Wipro website, get all these stuff, create a summary for you. Because many times data quality is bad because people don't enter stuff. You can get a very good description for you to sell your services on the marketplace. Many times
Hmm.
partners want great sellers to close deals. This is a big see because
Right.
you look at APAC, right? APAC, if you say I want to sell directly, they'll say no, come through my broke partner, right? Partners like a broke, come through him because they
Correct.
don't want to take the liability, right? Because tomorrow people will sue you saying, how did you choose Microsoft? I didn't
Yeah.
choose them. My partner chose them, right? And he or my consulting firm, whatever, choose them. So these partners like to tag along with the sellers. So how do you make the co-sales easy? So if they're opening a
Hmm.
co-sell form, filling it up automatically, then there are different products of Microsoft. Like you heard of Salesforce, which is a leader in the field. We have a
Right.
product there as well called Dynamics. We're not the leader, but I think
Hmm.
we'd be in the top 3 or 4 in that space, right? So there, whenever you launch any feature, we're gonna first try it out internal customers. So my customers, my stakeholders are both internal, like the like all the commerce systems, partner systems, seller systems, and also external, like the Azure core product or the Dynamics team. So there, what we do, we're gonna build this chatbot,
Yeah.
for content recommendation. Then once we build the chatbot there using generative AI, it then goes into MSX, where on the opportunity pages, okay, it comes along. So a lot of generative AI projects, 15, 20 of them. There's one bucket of applied ML. Then
Sure.
ML ops.
Hmm.
My team, has more than 100 models in production. When you run 100 models in production, a lot of things can go wrong. You need a proper ML
Hmm.
ops system. Like,
Right.
first, at the very basic stage, you have production support. So some incident happens, like we power the Azure search on the marketplace, right? So if that goes wrong, customers are not able to
Hmm.
get results. It's going to be an incident. We got to go fix. So we've got a production support there. Then we've got like data contracts. So if I'm taking data from you, what's the input contract, what's the output contract? On top of it, you have all these data quality checks. Most half of the incidents are due to models. Then you have
Correct.
Microsoft very very big on security hacking. So we have this compliance layer. Then a lot of these services, like services to detect data drift, model drift, concept drift, like data distribution change, model performance change, definition of target change, impact assessment engine, where you kind of forward test into the back, taking that back testing and then say what the impact is. That all these ML ops team. Then ML as a
Hmm.
services, I have like if I have 10 models, 25 models on anomaly detection, I don't do on separate GitHub folks to everything, because the problem is when you have separate folks to everything, it leads to a lot of regression testing effort. Like, for example, you fork my code, but you run all the test cases again, longer development time. Then difficult to
Right.
upgrade. Like, for people like you and I who've been in this industry for years, we know there were SaaS models, R models. So we have some legacy R models somebody coded in 2015. Imagine going and
Hmm.
changing that. It's horrible to change, because it simply what it's running. You should be grateful it's running. So if it's all powered by a service, then what
Hmm.
happens? All these 25 models, they call the anomaly detection as a service, makes it easy to upgrade models, makes it easy to maintain models, and also makes it easy to abstract MLOps. So all of these things make it like very easy, very powerful. So these are the three parts that we work on: applied ML, MLOps, and ML as a service.
Right. Interesting. And how, so as someone who has, now spent so much time in industry, has seen it evolve, how was your reaction to generative AI and what OpenAI has did in the last 18 months? And then how are you seeing it?
See, generative AI and OpenAI, they've actually made a class of problems very, very easy to solve, which are all on the NLP side. Okay,
Yeah.
so a lot of the problems. So what I do is, the way I look at generative AI is that is another is like made a class of problems very easy, and it
Hmm.
changes our approach on how to go about these class of problems. So for a class of problems,
Right.
it's a totally different dimension. Second
Mm-hmm.
is everybody's excited about the space. So if you're an exec and you're not investing in Gen AI, you're not going to be seen as futuristic, unlikely to be promoted, likely to be fired. So everybody wants to use Gen AI. There's a huge
Yeah.
demand. So half of our project mix as a center of competence has shifted to Gen AI. The third
Mm-hmm.
part is, see, whenever the lot of these a lot of these hype cycles come through, right, where people take it to the altogether next level. So for example, see, when I bump into some of my friends, right, from college, who are probably doing consulting, or people who are kind of doing biz dev, and we meet, they say, hey, you know what, I'm hearing that in a couple of years there won't be any programming required. It'll all happen, right? Yeah, I kind of joke with them. Before the Gen A actually writes the code, it'll probably make PPT presentations and put you out of a job, right? Because just on life note, because programming is, because
Right.
because I guess it's much more difficult to program than to make
Mm-hmm.
PowerPoint presentations, right? So the thing is, there's a lot of hype. So the way to address it is, see, let's look at all these things, right? The first part, but of course,
Mm-hmm.
the underlying fact or the underlying part is that there's a huge potential for applied for impact from applied ML using GenAI. First is, what is
Yeah.
the class of problems where it comes in? Chatbot problem, more or less, what do you say? It's become ML engineering problem than ML science problem. You want to write a chatbot
Yeah.
using Gen AI, you say import OpenAI, then you have the chat agent, you have the system message or the user message, you have you have these messages that you maintain the history, keep sending to
History
OpenAI,
and
you have
yeah.
your chatbot. Chatbot problem is
Correct.
become an ML engineering problem. You're doing a chatbot, what
Right.
ML science is, ML engineering problem. So chatbot, OpenAI, clear. So it's some class of
Yeah.
problems that have become very easy is, are more opportunities, enterprise search. Like, not Google search, but searching your
Mm-hmm.
repository of documents to get an answer. Like in analytics Vidhya, if you wanna have
Correct.
a Q&A system where you say, hey, so many
Yeah.
articles on XGBoost, right? I want to know but some of them may not be relevant. So, but some of them may be
Right.
excellent, right?
Excellent.
The analytics with you, I want to compliment you. I like excellent stuff. Like even me, right? Sometimes on some stuff, I like to go to analytics with you and see some of the talks very well written. So you want to have a Q&A system for that. Then how do you introduce a Q&A system for that? Then there retrieval augmented generation becomes
Rag.
a very
Yeah.
very easy way where you augment the information, right? Then the other thing can be like form filling. If somebody fills three
Yeah.
fields, fill the other field. And some that is basically what you call as assisted authoring, right? You're assisting
Auto
somebody
suggest.
to
Yeah.
author. Yeah, like, and
Yeah.
then
Correct.
the other problem is insights become easy, where if somebody says, hey, you know what, I want to know what are my top five partners, right? Somebody asks a question, you convert natural language to SQL, give the answer, but you can confuse it a lot. You can ask it like, hey, how are the top percentile here compared to the top percentile in northern Western Europe versus Eastern Europe for these products? It won't be able to answer, okay? But the fifth part is using transfer learning for a variety of things like sentiment classification.
Mm-hmm.
Then sentiment classification means automatically you can tag documents also, right?
Correct.
It can be like automatically classifying support tickets,
Mm-hmm.
all of these things. So these problems, Gen AI has to be the first choice. So if you're doing chatbot, you're doing enterprise AI, you should follow Gen AI approach. But then, and the second thing is, what I said first is class of problems becomes easy, right?
Correct.
Second is certain problems they don't change. Coming to the
Yeah.
third part, right? For example,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when I do these talks, I say how many people use GitHub Copilot. I see very few hands. I was invited to a talk at Adobe, and when I was giving the talk in Adobe, I asked the engineering audience how
Mm-hmm.
many of you use GitHub Copilot. There were like barely 4 or 5 hands that came out. So the point is that just because Gen AI is there and we believe it's going to change everything, it's not going to be. See, it can help assist you with code instead of going to Stack
Correct.
Overflow, so going to Reddit. So the problem today is people don't know what is Gen AI, right? It's a large language model, predicts the next word. You actually train it with humongous amounts of data, with humongous amount of compute, and
Yeah.
then you train it with very very specific examples where your and I conversation can be labeled by some human labelers, and you do reinforcement learning, human feedback. It doesn't know anything outside Stack Overflow. So you go and tell it, you know
Correct.
what, write a mean reversion trading system for me. I'm going to put my money into it in lakhs of rupees, and it should make me a target of so many crores end of the year. It's not going to work, right?
It
See,
won't
the thing
work.
is,
Yeah.
people don't understand what Gen AI. They think it's magic, and there's a lot of confusion because, see, Gen AI is not going to automatically start coding and then changing everything, right? You'll still need the best consultant to make the best PPT. It's not gonna. It probably can assist you with what diagrams. It's more like an assistance tool. That's what I'm saying.
Correct.
Second, the executive
Correct.
interest. I don't have more to say, but this is also related in a lot of engineering challenges. Because from engineering challenges, the challenges are first is which LLM you should choose. For example, between
Yeah.
GPT 3.5 and GPT 4, my experience is that GPT-4 is 10 times more costly than GPT 3.5 for 7% increase in performance. It doesn't make sense for many applications to go to GPT-4. So cost is important. Most important is performance. If there's no performance, why do you even go to cost, right? First is performance,
Mhm.
then there is cost, then there is latency because if the answer is going to come after 5 seconds, who's going to wait, right? Then there's
Correct.
open source licensing models. So how do you choose LLM? That's one area.
Mhm.
How did you CI/CD for all this GitHub prompt engineering? Because at the heart of MLOps is, like I spoke in the landing models in production at scale talk at Hack Summit,
Yeah.
is about dev prod reproducibility. How do you do that in GenAI? Third is that when you design all the biggest problem in GenAI today is there's no label data. So you talk to many people, they'll say I built GenAI systems. People, right? Then you ask them how did you evaluate it? They'll say, you know what?
Yeah.
After it's evaluated, we did survey. We counted number of people who said thumbs up button. It was very high. We had like so many people using it. What percentage of people? So there are no. It has actually turned the traditional ML upside down because see, this is not reliable
Correct.
information. As you ask a
Right.
question to a chatbot, give an answer. Is that a correct answer? So you need label data. If you have an exact answer, you can do accuracy or traditional ML metric. If you have a reference answer, you can do cosine similarity. If you don't have anything, you don't have a data set. So people are building things wrong. What I found in Microsoft is 7% of the time the OpenAI results themselves are varying. So what about consistency?
Right.
So people, first step in GenAI is you to have label data. That's a big challenge that has happened. There are no labels, so people don't know what answers they got. They're good or bad, and there's so much of hype on because of all these exec interests. Is that they people go say we have great things working. You go double click and see, oh, what CSAT is so bad. Okay, yours is the best of the worst, right? So what's happening is there's a huge thing. Now I'll take it a step higher and say, see, is GenAI is actually making a lot of people's lives easy. Like
Mm.
like you can think of Excel, right? Before Excel is so difficult to sort 20 numbers or to
Right.
filter out people. So it's going to make your life easier, but then it has to get adopted. There are two major
Yeah.
challenges to GenAI adoption today. First is,
Mhm.
of course, what are the type of tasks GenAI will automate? There'll be routine tasks like somebody manually checking data quality, order processing, pricing, not actually pricing products, but reading all these deals document. Who's going to read a 150-page document? You want GenAI to summarize for you, but there you'll face resistance because of two reasons, right? The first type of resistance is, see, if this does my job, what do I do? So you find a lot of these operation business teams feeling threatened that the technology out to take their jobs, so they won't even allow you to build a system. They'll tell you that, hey, we know our sellers best, we don't need you. The second
Yeah.
is genuine drawbacks in the system.
Right.
I will use GenAI. You should make my job more easy. If I spend more time, if you write test cases for me, but I spend more time debugging all the errors that GenAI created, then why do I need you? So the problem is
Yeah.
twofold, right? Organizations not adopting because of two things. One is that the technology is not ready for the use case. There's hype.
Correct.
Second is
Yeah.
people feel this is a challenge. So I think that for GenAI to get adopted, there's been huge reskilling, education initiatives by organizations, and the challenges you also know, right? There are so many in India. What happens in India, rest of the world, so many analytic centers of excellence have come up, but then not all of them have added value in proportion to the investment or in proportion to the hype. Because see, building good models that work is not easy, right? When you build something in the
Yeah.
industry, it's different from a competition. It's not just last mile optimization. You have to define the business problem. You need to check there is no leakage. In competition, you
Yeah.
find leakage, you'll win it. Here, if you have leakage,
Correct.
you're
You'll
likely to
lose
get fired.
it.
You want the leakage should be avoided. You need to understand all the features, like domain knowledge becomes important. It's just not just like creating all possible variations. One evaluation metric in the business world, no way, right? The multiple evaluation metrics and real world evaluation metrics becomes difficult. Deploying the model becomes important. So I think that GenAI also, the LLM ops is a subset of ML ops. Huge investment required there, and I think all these things will rationalize, right? Because many times people they're into this route, right? That everything's going to get automated and there's going to be nothing to do for people. That's like an extreme view, because heart of it is a language model. See, it's not inventing
Right.
code, right? It's again memorizing code from Stack Overflow and giving it to you, because you go take the same snippet, paste, you'll find it, you'll know from where it picked it up, right? Correct.
Correct, correct. That is true. That is true. I guess, obviously you need to be aware of what kind of problems it is best at solving, and there it has opened up new possibilities. But just want to go a bit deeper on, for example, some of the problems where it's still not right, but or it's still kind of very nascent days, coding, for example, in that sense. But if you look at when GPT 3.5 or 4 came out till the date today, the quality has improved significantly, right? So do you see this as part of the journey, or you think it has just become better at memorizing or extracting value from the data? So how are you seeing this development, and do you see that as a coder getting built, or still just good memorization?
See, the thing is, see this. See, I would actually not use the word memorize exactly. See, because
Hmm.
the thing is this. See, there was this very good. See, because when you give it labeled data, it actually adjusts to that data. See, basically, what is
Correct.
prompt engineering? It's a subtractive.
Correct.
There's a whole world
Yeah.
of all the documents. You say,
Yeah.
go look only at Stack Overflow. Then what happens? You're restricting it. So prompt engineering is basically restricting. Similarly, is chain of thought prompting, right? Where you're telling it, tell me how you came to the solution. So what's happening is, as and when people are bringing up these drawbacks, they're all
Hmm.
getting reinforced into it, because there was a
Reinforced.
paper that came out sometime
Hmm.
back where they said that there were a lot of problems in GenAI, probably 3.5. In 4, everything is fixed.
Hmm.
So what's
Hmm.
happening is these systems are continually becoming better.
Better.
See, because you could easily stump it, right? Like, for example, we wanted to multiply what is 2 plus 2, let's say it's 4. But if you were to
Yeah.
give it some very complex number with no examples, it will probably get stumped. If you twist an
Right.
existing puzzle, I think this is something which
Hmm.
I think Jeremy Howard used in one of his talks on large language models, where he says that it's famous puzzle where you have a goat, you have a tiger, and
Right.
you have like goat, tiger. See, the tiger
A
can eat the goat,
person
the goat
and a
can eat
decoy, I think, something.
the
Yeah.
goat can eat a vegetable or something, and they need to be transported across. And if they're with the farmer, they don't eat each other. So how do you
Correct.
go? Because it's intuitive that goat eats grass or vegetables and wolf eats goat. But if you tell it, my problem is different. The goat eats the wolf, and the goat could not go with the wolf. They'll get confused. So, but then people have actually started labeling it. And nowadays, when you ask it a puzzle, the GPT says, hey, I think you're trying to confuse me, right? But this is the
Correct.
answer. So people see, because what happens is, see, actually a lot of things can be committed to memory, right? And memory is a very powerful thing. You can actually, we
Yeah.
make fun of some of these things in school, right? Like you think like, hey, this guy, we label some guys as rote guys, they just go wrote everything. But then some of them managed to wrote even the very competitive exams that managed to do very well. So memory is a very
Correct.
powerful thing. Okay, so you can memorize a
Hmm.
lot of stuff. The challenge, and then certain. So I would say that where it is will go is some of the routine tasks are likely to get more and more automated. If you want to write
Yeah.
like some propensity model, you can probably say that, hey, can you give me code which is very generic for this XGBoost step with the parameters that Owen Zhang said from Kaggle work very well in XG boosting, then we'll probably give you the code of those parameters.
uh,
But then a GenAI system, integrating it like to the full aspect where where you say that, hey, I won't need a programmer or I won't need a code. So I think code generation is one place where I think it will never quite reach that aspect. Because coding, see, the reason why a programming language exists is because natural languages are not very precise. Say, I and you are talking in
hmm.
English. Why do
Yeah.
you need Python? Why do you need C? In C, you can tell this is an integer. This is a
Right.
floating point. It's precise. In English, is not precise. See, every word has multiple meanings. So, cohesity can be the name of a company. Cohesity can be whatever clarity. So
Right.
natural language can never replace programming language, because programming languages
Hmm.
are very precise. They have some expressive nature which you don't have in natural language. So I think that's going to be a place where GenAI will be a assistant. For programming, it's going to be an assistant. For business
Hmm.
decision making, it's going to be an assistant. In the same
Right.
situation, a leader took a particular decision, it may not work for you again, right?
Right.
You can go and build a repo of all the Harvard case studies, but it's not going to work, right? Business decision making,
Yeah.
no. Then software programming, see, there are certain things where it will help a lot, like now you have all these key leaks, all that we say use managed identities, don't use keys. We can enforce it, some discipline, use it to do some checks and say if the discipline assistant. So coding, it's an assistant. Then for routine tasks, which are like operations driven, data quality, duplicating data, entering things into a form, checking for that quality, it will both enhance as well as it will automate. Because a certain task, if
Right.
it is very, very series of fixed steps, no, like read documents, summarize it, then that gives an optimization opportunity. You can have a huge set of, who are your expert transcribers, take their data, use them as labels, apply to everything else. So I think in those kinds of automations will happen. There are a lot of these. There was a big buzzword a few years ago called robotic process automation. I'm pretty sure you heard of all these
Yeah.
UiPath,
RPA.
automation
Yeah.
anywhere, all of that, right? But the point is, what did they automate, right? They automated some stuff, definitely. They did automate, but they didn't like we still have order processing teams, you'll have pricing teams. So it'll all
Correct.
become all the tasks related to natural language will become much easier. But I
Hmm.
think that nowadays, people have gone. A lot of people have gone on this route where they say that, hey, everything's, see, all you have to do is speak English, right, and then everything will happen. I don't think we are going to be
Yeah.
there.
We are there.
And
Right.
take another step, right? Let's again take all these competitions. There are so many AutoML companies where a lot of great people work. People I respect a
Yeah.
lot. Scientists. A lot of them are at DataRobo or H2O or AI,
That's
but
true.
they could never win. But they have individually won data mining competitions. Okay, so DataRobo has a lot of people, great guys who won competitions. A lot of my friends are there. H2O AI is there, but they couldn't get their tool to win the competition, right? So, for example,
Yeah.
you can win the competition from your laptop but not using the tool, because when you automate and try to make it applicable to a huge variety of use cases, you have to generalize,
Yeah.
and there you lose
Right.
flexibility. It's like command line versus GUI. Moment you have
Hmm.
GUI, there's never been a GUI that can do everything on the command line. Okay, yeah, correct.
Correct.
So
That
that is
is
my
true.
answer.
That is.
There's a lot of hype and there's a lot of things going on. The hype is real in many cases, but not real in
Hmm.
several other cases. And it's very important when we build these systems, to understand what it is. Even for data scientists, right? People in the team also come to me and say, "Put me in a GenAI project." After working on a couple, they say, "Hey, I'll work on the other side," because the thing is more ML engineering than ML science. See, because the chatbots, the GenAI is doing all the things for you, right? Natural language
Right.
is already built a language model. You have to, what are you doing, right? You're basically
Hmm.
ensuring all the data is in a database. Either it's in a vector store or it's in a
Correct.
traditional database with a vector store. Then you're sending that prompt, and then you're doing the cosine similarity. You may be doing a KNN, then sending it, getting the response back. But what the core in all GenAI projects, even for data scientists, is ML engineering. It's not so much ML
Engineering.
science. Okay, yeah.
Correct. That is true. And if I were to ask you, let's say, projecting in future, let's say next 2 3 years time frame, uh, any specific breakthroughs in generative AI or in the way it is getting used today, which you are very excited about?
See, GenAI, what we're going to see is, see, GenAI is currently, very scattered
Hmm.
usage. Like, one
Yeah.
type of usage is all this one shot example, two shot example, multi shot. Then you do the chain of thought prompting. For some applications, you want zero shot. For some
Yeah.
applications, you want like the chain of thought. And then everything's being built specifically for an application, right? But then wherever there's the good part about the capitalistic world is where there's an opportunity, somebody will seize it. There is an
Correct.
People are going to build systems using GenAI that automates entire processes. For example,
Yeah.
take insurance or take healthcare, right? So if you look at some area like let's just take an example of healthcare, right? So there you have these patients who are coming in, talking to doctors. So there's a patient management at a hospital. Then the doctor's prescribing something. So you have some data science at the so you have not data science. You have something to automate at the doctor's end. So the doctor is actually speaking. You can convert the voice to text, store it somewhere, update the health records automatically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then
Hmm.
once all the records are automated, he prescribes some medicine. Then in any
Correct.
hospital, there's insurance management. The first thing I ask you is, hey, you know what, do you have insurance or not? I mean, they
Yeah.
ask you if you have insurance, you got to go there, and because you got to
Correct.
intimate the insurance company before you start the
Insurance company.
procedure, right?
Correct.
So insurance management is there, then predicting the things. Then you see a lot of applications there, like x-rays, other stuff. You can actually go and say like, hey, is there a particular issue? Similarly, you go and to look at things like a bank. There is so much like customer management and other stuff, right? So there is variety of there are this variety of applications. So you're going to see a lot of end-to-end automation that is
Hmm.
going to be attempted by companies. So companies will come and sell a suite, right? They will say,
Right.
hey, you know what? I can automate it with these levers, with these places where human intervention exists, and they'll have to think of it from a systems perspective. See, now when you have
Hmm.
like models for 10 things in an insurance process, there's a need for a common denominator of data. You can't call.
Correct.
See, you have to have a way of to map maybe his legacy
Yeah.
applications, map it to a generic layer and say this one means this across application. This particular things means this across applications. So there'll be a lot of enhanced interest and opportunity for people to look at things from an end-to-end perspective. Okay, and then a lot of the what I would say is a lot of this routine when I say coding also, right? See, for example, let's say you're building
Hmm.
something for the everybody likes the stock market. So let's say you're trying to build something. Maybe you want to say that, oh, give me this block, give me that block. Those blocks will automatically come to you, and then maybe, right? See, different people code differently, right? For me, coding is like speaking, so I don't go look at Google anywhere when I code. For me, coding is I start and then I write it. Okay,
Right.
a lot of people will develop different forms of coding where it's like ask GenAI something, go and edit it and make it work. Okay, so all these
Correct.
things we will come together, but I think a huge business opportunity exists today because and you look at all the entrenched companies into those spaces, right? Like for example, see, because if you remember the mid 2000s, there were like different companies which did BI, like
Right.
MicroStrategy, business
Yeah.
objects, right? And then all
Correct.
these service companies, when I start talking to my friends, would say that, you know what I need. They'll say, we'd get these
The
good things like
cubes. We
urgent
would
deal,
create cubes. Yeah.
cubes, yeah, Excel cubes, Excel pivot cubes, etc. So what happened
Right.
is there's a huge automation opportunity, and I think there's going to be a lot of jobs created, which are more data heavy and analytics heavy, right? So because analytics, these things become analytics and data science heavy, it'll open up a lot of opportunities for scientists. But where GenAI will go, apart from opening up these opportunities, it will provide a huge innovation and impact possibilities for new startups, for age-old companies, for mid-sized firms, for like what do you call the new gen companies or the next gen cloud companies. Everybody, because all these systems have so much automation possible, so much possible. Labeling will become very important. People will very realize that, hey, you know what? Just somebody's just going asking something, getting an answer. Putting label data, testing for consistency will become important. So it'll basically throw up a lot of opportunities. And you see anything which is routine can be automated, and then there are so many routine tasks in the world because what is the whole idea of AI? AI is artificial intelligence. What does it actually mean? Achieving human level performance on certain tasks. So there are different problems. So for example, uh, grading of like say, let's just take example of what do you say? You know, you see, like interviews done at IIMs to select people
Right.
into the IIM.
Hmm.
The problem is you don't have data then, but if you have to record everybody's interview, then you could say that these professors are going to look for these patterns. Then you can say that if these people ask you these questions and you say these things, you're
Answer
not going to
it.
get
This
selected,
is.
right? Challenge is lack of data, right? So, but
Yeah.
otherwise, see, well, suppose you interview a lot of people for analytics Vidhya, I interview a lot of people for the corporate jobs at Microsoft, anywhere else. If all our interviews were transcribed for the last 5 6 years, then you know that certain things have remained common. Certain things we may
Yeah.
ourselves have evolved, right? We don't know, but we
Correct.
may have started
Yeah.
recruiting for different types of roles. But if all the data exists, that's a pattern to be exploited, and that pattern
Correct.
where the data is available can be exploited. It's a whole idea behind a machine learning model. So I think we'll go more and more on those lines.
Interesting. Very interesting. One of the things which I find every time I talk to you is you are obviously, on top of what's happening in AI, ML, latest developments, but you also map it very closely to its impact on business, right? So you almost sit at that intersection, and that's something which you advise to a lot of people as well, who are early in their career journeys. So just want to hear your thoughts on, let's say, if someone is a good technical person, understands AI and ML algorithms, what are some of the ways in which he can emulate what you do so brilliantly?
See, if there's somebody, see the I would say that there's a yeah, all types of people are needed in the
Yeah,
industry. And one of the problems we try to do is we try to say, hey, this is the ideal person. Let's
everyone.
all become like this person. But we need people of all flavors. We need people who only know
Right.
the business well. We need people who only know technology well. We need people who are deep, passionate experts in a particular field who can go very deep and solve problems. We need very good ML engineers. But then but then to play to be effective in those roles, it becomes important to actually assimilate all these skills. And today, right, if there's a very good technical person working in any company, they're a business stakeholder. So main thing is to talk to people to find out like, hey, why are we doing this problem? They ask that question, right? Because if somebody is very junior, they may get a task like this. Hey, you know what? There's his data. He's writing the data pipelines. X is writing pipelines. You write the modeling pipelines, and then make it happen. But you're not part of any of those discussions with the stakeholder where the
Discussion.
problem was defined. But then you can actually brainstorm with your manager to say that, hey, your M1 manager to say, hey, what is the entity? Why did you choose this entity? Why was this a target? Why is this the evaluation
Yeah.
metric? Could you have thought of it differently? To have that thought process, because ultimately, all these in our data science world, we have to figure out
Hmm.
how data comes in, how the data goes out, and then figure out like what
Hmm.
are all the different transformations that happen to the data in between. If we build an ML model, what is the output of that? What it did take into account. So it's more about mapping the data flow and the business flow. So what I recommend to people is understand the data flow, understand the business flow, and keep always reading stuff. See, the moment you stop reading, you stop learning. And
Hmm.
one of the things is, if there's something, all these sites like analytics with you, they're going to Stack Overflow, going to Reddit, then being on top of the maybe, right, because nowadays Twitter has also become like what do you say,
Yeah.
social media. LinkedIn also, people are posting blogs where they
Correct.
say, hey, you know what, these things are happening. So be on top of that, reading up all the things that are going on, being on top, because you can actually go what do you say, out of see, it's very easy. It's actually easier to go out of touch than actually to become better, right? Because if you only
Correct.
is this, no, if people, for example, when Python started kicking in 2015-16, they're like, I'll do things only in R, I'll do things only here. So you need to learn more skills, and
Yeah.
both on the technical side, and keep learning, like learn Python. Maybe, right, if there's somebody else talking about Rust, doesn't hurt to try that out. Okay, ML
Yeah.
ops also a lot of things. Because today, if you look at ML, there are so many things. Okay, even in a cloud company like Microsoft, you're building something, you need to know a lot of tools. So what I
Yeah.
say, business understanding becomes important. One is understand the data to the company. So how do we build models, for example, in Microsoft? Azure machine learning for compute, storage, all the infra. Within Azure
Hmm.
ML, people, experimentation, they use Jupyter Notebook. For production code, there'll be a scaffolding structure. So when you write that
Hmm.
scaffolding structure, you need to use, we use GitHub Actions, where you get the CI/CD mix. Then when you commit, there are some pre-commit hooks that automatically do some things for you. When you write code, you're supposed to lint it, check whether all those things are happening. Once
Hmm.
you have the model in place, then you have the data pipeline may be written using Azure Databricks, though we have Synapse, we use more Databricks. Then what happens is the data pipeline and the model pipeline have to be joined. To do that, you may use a tool like Azure Data Factory. Then once the model is built, it has to be consumed. To consume, maybe we write it to a blob store and say, hey, you pick it up from that location, old fashioned. Other is we have to integrate the code into the engineering system. Third is you have to expose an API. If you're exposing an API, you need to know traffic manager, you need to know API gateway, right? Then authentication becomes important. You cannot give your full URL. Somebody may hack you. You may have to give
Hmm.
so that for that you need traffic manager, you need endpoint management. Then you don't know how many requests you'll get. You look at Azure cognitive stuff, right, which we use in marketplace search, but also our own ML. We have this project in Microsoft where we put it live in different places. How do you do load balancing? Do you add like more servers to increase capacity of this server? Can I have this region talk to this region, service this region? What if something goes wrong? Like I have a new model
Yeah.
that's coming today. Like a lot of these see, when you have deep learning models in production, all kinds of things can happen. Somebody may think model has to run faster. They go and change the
Yeah.
batch size. They don't change the learning rate. You get very different results. Or maybe the
That
distribution
is
of the
true.
model changes. So when all these things happen, how do you have a blue green deployment? So when a new version of
Hmm.
the model comes, you run the old model at 10%,
Yeah.
run the new model 90%. See, there's a significant difference in performance. There's a significant difference. You go back to that old model, you shut down the new model. That's important.
Right.
Then checking the model for drift, like has it drifted, data drift, model drift. Then checking if the impact from the model is coming. Then even when you write this, if you're a company which is like an Accenture or a Deloitte, you don't want to like get tied to Azure or tied to AWS or any cloud. You want to use ZenML to write general pipelines, or you may not use Azure Data Factory. You may use Apache Airflow. Then how do you use containers? So the thing is, ML science is not just about, see, a good to be successful is not just about building the ML model. It's about the entire ecosystem around it. And for
Correct.
example, experiment management, ML flow. I think it's very average. Okay, so but weights and bias is more promising. So you've got to try these things. And the business is not just talking to the business. The business is understanding the entire set of tools that we have at your disposal. One, you
Right.
need to know the tools and the data. Second is for the problem, understanding with the business, right? Also speaking to the business, understanding the stuff. Then the other way is looking at the domain. Hey, in this domain, what are the set of models we have? Then what are the set of problems the stakeholder has? What maps where? What is the gap? How we can address that, right? So these things become important.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And any particular books or programs or courses or sites you have already mentioned, which you recommend to uh, people or have had a big impact on you in terms of how you think?
See, one of the things that I no, what I say is there are some sites that are, of course, when you look at it from a modeling perspective, there are some things you have to do. One is,
Yeah.
one thing is if you get a problem, always good to go to Kaggle and see a similar problem. What is the technology people have
Correct.
used? What did the
Yeah.
people winning competitions talk about? Right, it's very good from a last mile optimization perspective. And some people
Hmm.
like Jeremy Howard and all, right? There are so much like for the community. There's a book called Practical Deep Learning for Coders by Jeremy
Correct.
Howard, right? I think those kinds of books are good books to read. Then
Hmm.
on the modeling, I found the analytics Vidhya stuff to be very good. Like I was using, see what happened is I was using a light GBM after a very long time, and then I actually
Okay.
found the analytics Vidhya article to be excellent. And
Okay.
and even on some other stuff. So I think analytics Vidhya is a great place to go as well. Then the other thing is the math behind the techniques. When you can see this is all
Right.
for techniques, math behind the techniques. Going to Google Scholar, trying to find out
Yeah.
what are the research papers that are the latest in the field. Going and there's a way to see PhD is an art of reading, writing research papers. So
Correct.
how do you go read and how do you understand the top research papers that are happening, knowing the math behind the techniques? I recommend going to Google Scholar and checking all of those things out. Then see the one book that I think is very important from programming perspective, right?
Hmm.
You need to know be very good with pandas and Python if you're going to get anywhere in machine learning, deep learning, right? Like you can say old school, but then there's a very good book written by it's on pandas, which is called pandas. It's called Python for data analysis. Wes McKinney, right? He's
Wes
written an
McKinnon.
excellent book.
Yeah, he had
Yeah,
written. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
I think the third edition is there. It's a great book. Then, if you want to know Python really, really well, David Beasley is a great author on
Yeah.
Python. And there is a
Correct.
book called Fluent Python by Luciano Ramalho. Those are good ones. To understand the see the why like the for the machine learning thing, I think Jeremy Howard you should be fairly good. You need to know Python really well. The math behind the techniques, there's some of these the research papers will help. Then I'm not a big fan of all these Coursera, Udacity type of courses because the thing is they encourage short-term memory, right? Somebody listens to 1 hour lecture, they answer some questions, then they put a certificate also. See, retention is important from an end-to-end concept. They don't have see it's a difference between a Coursera
Yeah.
course and a actual program. In a program, they test you
Application.
for what
Yeah.
you learned in a semester. 1 hour you learned heard something for 1 hour, you answered 10 objective questions, There was something where all the code was written, had to enter a few lines. God, that's not like then you NBU. I would say that I'm not a big fan of those kinds of things. Then from the business perspective, it's important to read stuff, to read stuff, to talk to people. Even if there's nothing you get in in a corporate meeting by attending, just go and listen. Sometimes people they are in meetings, they're not listening. Like
Hmm.
like if I'm going to a meeting where I'm listening to somebody, I won't like take my laptop, then check all the emails. And don't just be there. See, if others want to do if there's something else to do, I'll walk out of the meeting, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. But be attentive, find out what's going on, and talking and finding out like, hey, why did you do it like that? And always asking a question. See, the two very important things in life, I think, in general for data scientists, one is very good debugging skills. Like, if
Hmm.
something's not working, I will go fix it. Versus, hey,
Right.
you fix it for me, you fix it for me, or finding the junior most guy and saying it's your problem, right? Like, that's not a good way of doing things. So, debugging skills very important, and that never giving up attitude, and then always asking like, what can I do better, right? What can I do better to to make this a better version of the product? Then not trying to be as non-routine as possible. Those are the things that are very important.
Great, great. Thanks for sharing those, Kiran. Uh, Kiran, usually towards the last few minutes of these episodes, we just do a rapid fire questions with our guests,
Okay.
and the idea is to know you better, right? So I'll just ask a few questions, and I would love to listen whatever comes first to your mind. What was the most exciting Kaggle competition for you?
Well, I like this competition called Donors Choose, which was one of the KDD competitions, where you had to like
Hmm.
predict like what would be the rating given to an essay, and I like it because at that time it was one of the first NLTK. Before no early competition
Got
was
it.
structured data. This an NLTK was
Right.
coming in, so that was my favorite
Hmm.
competition.
Interesting. What does your day look like?
So my day looks very different on the weekdays and the weekends. The weekdays I'm very busy
Hmm.
with office stuff. I like to keep one third of my time for meetings and discussions with stakeholders. Then because we keep talking to them and then figuring out what to do. Another one third for the
Hmm.
team. I also like to
Hmm.
do a lot of like model reviews, because when you have a lot of models, you can't go into code of every model, but you have a system for
Correct.
model reviews, reviewing stuff. I like to. I'm not so much of one-on-one person. I like to. I say that hey, we will do one-on-ones, but not like for the sake of doing it. The third part I like to spend a lot of time is on ideating, finding out what's the next big thing we can do. On the weekends, I'm not working at an office stuff, but I'm actually building something interesting on my own. So I have a very powerful
Hmm.
double GPU setup that I assembled on my own.
Oh,
It's more
wow.
powerful than my.
Okay.
It's been more powerful than my office system, both at VMware and Microsoft, right? So for a long time, so this is a good.
Interesting.
This is the reason we could tech company. So I keep myself busy with different kinds of stuff. Yeah, I like to. I can say is what is actually when I initially got into. It's one of the things I used to do
Hmm.
at VMware was, see if you do something, suppose something was not really up to expectations. Say, hey, you know what? Let's come to my office. Let's sit together. I'm gonna code it, and you're gonna see it. Okay, that's the punishment. Okay, whatever. At a very different type of style, because so nobody comes and tells me that it's gonna take like 3 weeks or 4 weeks, because then they'll find that I did it over the weekend, and then I'm
Right.
demonstrating to them that hey, this is the way you should do it. Okay, yeah.
That's an interesting one. And what was the last application you built on this double GPU cluster which you mentioned?
Yeah, so actually, one of the things that's been interested me a lot, long time, has been this machine learning for trading the markets, right?
Hmm.
So one of the things that
Okay.
I've spent some time and has been building up a system to do this, right? So
Hmm.
actually, I deployed it also like some 7 8 months ago. It ran well for the first couple of months, and I found that there was something wrong in it. So thing is, see, as data scientists, I believe we should be very cautious. So even though it was
Hmm.
giving me a reasonable return, I pulled it back because I want to fix the bugs. So I'm actually building up the system, because see, what interests me of finance data is that very non-stationary in nature, and then one
Right.
of my thoughts is, hey, can I crack it? Right. My point is, so actually we're building some very complex systems there. So hopefully it'll work sometime. Yeah, correct. That's kept me busy
Great.
the weekends for the last year. Yeah.
Okay, great, great. Thanks a lot, Kiran, for that exciting and very interesting interview and sharing your perspective. And as always, great to hear from you and learn from you. Thanks a lot.
Same here. It's been great talking to you and learning from you and everybody else. Analytics Vidhya. It's and I want to appreciate you for having such a great community there where people can learn and learn in a way. See, one of the things I like is that it's also about giving. See, one of the things we have to do is give back to the community, and I think that you've done a lot for the data science community, and I'm very happy to be associated with you in some form. Okay, yeah.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Kiran.